Everybody, welcome to the Book Leads, Impactful Books for Life and Leadership. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted the lives of the people in my network. So these are great leads that I'll be interviewing to get to those books that have made the biggest impact on them as a person, them as a worker, them as a business person, whatever it may be, all those worlds intersect. I want to know which book it is that's really contributed the most, that's contributed to the value they create, that's really left an impression on who they are. And my guest today is Erich Davis. And Erich is a certified high-performance coach, workshop facilitator, and art fabricator whose career has been focused on bringing his client's vision forward. Erich's certified high-performance coaching curricula is scientifically proven to build daily practices and mindsets aimed at elevating clients' performance in all areas of their lives. As the facilitator of the WorkWorkshop, Erich hosts in-person group workshops remotely and in his studio designed to inspire participants to go beyond their comfort zone, connecting them to their creative potential for greater authenticity, confidence, and self-expression. Erich also facilitates professional development group workshops, weaving his certified high-performance coaching curricula into creative events that build resilience, cohesion, develops creative problem-solving skills, and increases overall effectiveness in teams. As owner-operator of E.J. Davis Aesthetics, Erich's work can be seen in museums, galleries, private collections, and public spaces all across the country. And Erich and I met years ago. It was COVID that brought us together.
Yeah.
When COVID hit and it was right around, mid-March 2020 and the world went home for 2 weeks, right, Erich? 2 weeks.
Yeah, quote unquote.
We were part of a community online that came in to kind of talk about, it was create what's needed, I believe, Erich, right?
Yeah, it was, I believe at that time, that's what they called it. Yeah. Changed. It changed a couple times after that, I think.
Yeah. But that was where we met. It was kind of just, taking the time because there was a pause in the world to figure out what we could create, what we could do going forward, because you didn't know what was going to happen. We really didn't know if we were really going back at the end of 2 weeks or if that was it for the planet. It's hard to believe that
Yeah, right.
that was already almost 5.5 years ago, which is incredible. But Erich, buddy, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, man, thanks for the invite. I appreciate you getting me on your show.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. I love seeing all the work that you're doing. I love seeing the workshops that you're putting on. Every time you put on videos or photos of you installing your pieces, whether it is at a museum, on somebody's property, it's amazing to see.
Thanks, man. It's every day is a new day, right? Everything's completely different all the time, and so the fun part is exactly that. Just every different opportunity, has its own challenges and has its own rewards. And yeah, the best part for me is like the connection with the people. I think like that's the biggest plus, especially with the various artists and the designers that I get to work with, super talented people, and they have their own vision, and that's sort of the big picture is we all kind of still need each other, right? So these folk, well, not kind of, we definitely do. These folks come up with this idea and they put it on paper in a drawing or whatever for a space or what have you, and they come to me like, I don't know how to make this. So that's where I come in and we talk through what's the vision and how do we, what's their intent and getting all that stuff right, because what they're leaving behind, what they're going to put their name on, it matters to them as well. And so I want to make sure I get that right from the get-go. And just gives me a good, a little boost to know that I'm a part of that thing that's going to end up, helping being in someone else's space or inspiring people wherever it may be, where it's a public sculpture or something in a restaurant, whatever. But telling someone else's story in so many ways through their environment, it's pretty cool.
So do you have? I'm assuming maybe you keep some list or pictures of all the. Like, how far back do you have pictures of all the creations that you've put out there that you've provided your clients? Like, how do you maintain that list? Because how long have you been doing this for?
The fabrication business started in 2007. So almost, about 18 years or so.
Wow.
I have a lot of photos. I'm notoriously horrible at sharing them. I think that's the one thing. And I think, honestly, it's like I'm not that kind of. I have to learn how to get better at this. Of course, is sharing your work and putting yourself out there is kind of the name of the game if you want to have any success and get notoriety that leads to
Yeah.
more good work. You got to put it out there. So, but historically, I just get the satisfaction out of the work so much, and because how it is being a solo entrepreneur, it's just you have so many hats to wear, and marketing guru and social media marketing hat is not the one that I like to wear all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? Seeing your work, when you post pictures about the workshops that you're doing,
Yeah.
workshops for kids, like all that kind of stuff, don't short yourself on that stuff, man,
Yeah, man.
because it's not even the pieces, but it's like the experience for those workshops. It's the experience that people always wonder where these kind of fabrications come from, what that process looks like. So the first time that I had seen you online in that community, we were all on Zoom and you all had
Right.
access to each other's backdrops, but yours was in your workshop.
Yeah.
So
man.
it's incredible. Going back to what I was saying, you got to get the word out there.
I agree. I think it's like if there's one if there's an Achilles heel, that's it for sure. And I think, but honestly, like not even to short myself, it's if I'm gonna make make that impact that I want to make, both with the work that I make and also the people I'm like communicating with and teaching and like inspiring, more the better. So that's the name. That's the name of the game. And and I think, you and I have talked about this, sort of make a bigger shift more towards the sharing of the experiences and getting directly into, person to person inspiration. Whereas before, the communication of what the message is came through the artwork or the thing that I was creating. And now it's like, okay, I'm going straight at it. I just want to talk to people and get them all fired up and, show them what they're capable of and be, sort of that beacon to sort of show the way of this is what's possible. You have to take the steps, and whether that's a coaching client or a workshop with parents and their kids, it's the same thing. It's just like opening the door to what to people's own capacity for doing something that they didn't know that they were capable of before.
Absolutely.
So many lights go on, and I just love being in the room for that. It's just like, it's the best thing. You just watch these kids light up and parents light up and in the larger group workshops, it's just awesome. It's not something, and the way that I do it, I guess it's time we're talking about tooting my horn. The way that I do it is different. I'm not doing like something you find on the internet that's like a team building exercise where you have a puzzle and a little escape room and everybody's got to do the thing and we could do it virtually. No, we're in a workshop with heavy freaking equipment. It's a little intimidating when people show up and potentially, it's not dangerous because I keep everything unplugged, but it's like, okay, I'm in this space that I would not normally be in, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's where people mostly start. And I think just the process of getting them to feel like, okay, you're safe here. It's comfortable. You're going to do some cool shit. And can I swear?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, great. We're going to do some cool shit.
Absolutely.
And you're going to find out, that there's more, you have more opportunities and more capabilities than you thought you had before.
Yeah,
and
I love
that empowerment part. I mean, you can't really replace it.
Yeah. Obviously the nature of the work we're both in, the coaching aspect on my side, your side, that's the craziest part, is people recognizing and realize how much they're capable of outside of their regular scripted run of the mill life, which there's nothing wrong with that. But introducing somebody to how they can be creative with their leadership, with their
100%.
with their self, with their hands, just that introduction into a level of skill that they didn't know they had or were capable of. It's just, again, mine is just coaching. Yours is both the mental as well as the physical, in your hands work. But I can only imagine what that's like, especially for you now, introducing and combining the two,
Right.
because that's got to be a hell of an experience with the coaching part,
Right.
as well as the messaging of what work with your hands, crafting, fabricating something that you made. Just tying that in has got to be beautiful. So let's segue into that. So I read the bio of the different components, the coaching, the
Yep.
workshop, and then kind of blending the two. Can you kind of provide some, you already gave some, but can you give additional insight into what each of those looks like? The coaching, the workshops, and then combining the two.
Right. So you kind of nailed it. There are three aspects. There is a straight up, okay, I coach people based on the curriculum that that I've been trained in, sort of the improve the larger picture of your life. It's sort of an approach based method of like, these are the things, this is the way we step forward and how we get, get better results. And a lot of it comes down to what, it's the basics of what we pay attention to, we have better control over, and we can make different choices when we're aware, and sort of mindfulness, self-awareness parts of us that we just need a lot of reminders for. And I try to put it in more of a system. It's like it's a process where, okay, this is the thing that I want to improve upon, or this is the part of my life that needs attention. We take that apart, not really take it apart, but we look at the various aspects of what goes into achieving anything. And almost everything starts with, clarity. You got to know where you're going, what you want, how you want to be, who you want to be, what you want to step into. And then we build sort of the scaffolding that fortifies, once we have that vision, moving forward. It's almost the same exact process as making a piece of art. If I don't know what I'm making as a fabricator, I can't help anybody. So that's really it. It's like the back and forth starts there. It's like, what do I really want? What am I after? How am I going to get there?
Especially the component you just said, the back and forth.
Right.
That it doesn't have to be coming in and saying, this is exactly what I need.
No.
Because sometimes the person that
People
comes
don't know.
to you, they don't know. They have an idea. Maybe they're like 80% of the way there, or
Yep.
maybe they're at 80%. And then by the time you talk them through, they're kind of like going back on their expectations because you've demonstrated something to them. You've shown them something. So they thought they had a great idea, and then you explained something or showed them something different, and it goes a different direction. But I love the fact that it's a back and forth, because they can learn from you.
Well, it's not really about them learning from me. It's about them learning from them. It's asking the right questions so that they can have real clarity and where and identify with what, the part of them that wants to put this thing out. A lot of the time, and the way this works with artists that I fabricate for, like, I have this vision, I need it to do this, and these are the things that I am interested in kind of communicating, and I have this rough sketch. But everything between the rough sketch and when I produce literally a plan for them, this is what we're going to make, and then I give them a budget, it's the same as this first part of like the clarity section of the coaching practice. Mm-hmm. I ask you what you want. I ask you what you're after. I ask you how that's going to change, what the outcome is for you. Like, how is that going to impact your life? How is it going to affect the impact of your relationships? How is it going to affect this, that, and the other thing from a coaching perspective? From a visual perspective, it's like, what do you want it to be made out of? How is it going to get moved around? What are the logistics here that need to be clear so that we can put together a real plan? The process is the same. Get the information and then start working on how do we support that and build the rest of around it. And the difference between the coaching part, and what would be in a fabrication setting is that you're dealing with somebody's mindset. Their ability to, kind of change and flex is very different than saying, I got to bend this piece of metal a certain way to get it. It's a much more immediate process when you're doing a tangible thing. To get somebody to actually make a change, I find they need a lot of support, a lot of reminders, a lot of like, okay, let's revisit what happened here and see what we can learn about how we could do it better next time. And that's the name of the game. How do we do it better next time? What is the next move that is going to, support us in the process going forward to where we want to go? And if we don't have where we want to go figured out, it's like, I can give you all the like hacks and tools that you want, but if you don't know how you're going to use them or what they're for or who they're for and how it's going to make your life better, then, what are we doing? It's just, you might as well spin in circles.
Yeah, which is exactly what happens. I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago about therapy and coaching and working with somebody, and how in some cases that person is just always there because the client or the patient isn't learning.
Right.
The therapist or whoever the guide is just kind of giving them solutions.
Right.
So then you have people in these sessions for like 20 years where the end game should be working with them to provide them the tools, not only tools in the beginning, but also to get them thinking about possibilities so that when they come up against an obstacle, they're not looking for you to solve it for them. So getting them in that mindset, like you said, is so important, where they see the possibilities, they see the options, they're not afraid, they don't just shut down, they kind of open up to what's around them and what's possible.
Yeah, for sure. And tools are different than solutions, right? Like, it's the old teach a man to fish analogy.
Exactly.
You can't just give somebody the option or the option to choose A or B. You can when you're making a thing, but you can't with a person, because if they're not invested in the process and they don't have a skill set to navigate it the next time, because it's going to happen again, there's no chance. Like they don't have a way through if they don't, can't see the roadmap, or they can't see the steps that they need to take to navigate a situation or their challenges. And again, it's like, without a grand vision, and I had this problem with the therapist recently. It's just like the same thing. I'm trying to get to a specific place, and I communicated to the therapist, I'm trying to get to a specific place. And all this person wanted to do was give me the tools based on their methods and mode, but didn't really listen to what I'm actually after. And so the tools didn't even matter because they weren't applicable to the process that I was, looking for help with. So the sort of same works in reverse, right? If you get somebody who's like, here's this hammer, go make a salad. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. So you have to be attentive to what the person is asking for, what they're really needing. You have to pay attention to who the person is, or at least try to get a feel for their appetite for doing hard things. And the hardest things are the things that we have to be honest with ourselves about, and it's like that's where people stop so fast. I feel it's just like you get to that point where it's like, no, this is yours, man. This is on you. You've got to do this work. I can't tell you what to do. Like, you have to find in yourself what's the right next move. And if I tell you the right next move from what I think, it might work for me, but like, I don't have your life. I don't have the circumstances and situations around you. Yeah. So like, I don't know. I love the coaching thing. I just find it so rewarding, and it's just so interesting to learn how people, how they think, how they navigate their own sort of stuff. And the best part for me is just, so much of it is just making the connections between what they think is real and their perceptions, right? And a lot of that is talked about in this book, right? So if we want to segue, like, it's all about that initial perception. Like, I think it's this, and I put this meaning on it, but objectively from the outside looking in, it's like, it could be 10 other things depending on how you want to look at it, and so getting people out of that myopic, this is the way I've always done it, this is the way I look at things all the time, especially as a creative person. I feel like I have a superpower there. It's like I'm always looking at things differently. And that's where I think, to go back to like, if I'm going to add anything to the process that I learned, it's that ability to see things from multiple angles, right? In the coaching, it's super important because I can see in what a person's struggling with from a conceptual perspective, and communicate with them in a way that they need to hear it, right? Because I just sort of that dialogue and getting to understand how they read the world and ask them a question in a way that makes them go, oh, oh, okay, now I get it.
See now, and this next question I always ask is I want to understand how you got to this point. So I want to get a sense for your path. Say, typically I ask from like high school or the time
Oh,
you
wow.
entered the workforce to now. Just kind of like the highlights, whatever it might be. Because for you
We have how
especially,
long?
we got like an hour.
All right, all right, all
But
right.
for you, especially, I'm curious because you're somebody, again, when I first met you, you were on screen and people could see your workshop behind you. So there's like, machinery, there's like blow torches and cutters and racks of metal and all these
Yeah,
materials. And then when you spoke, it was very deep. It was very methodical. It was very human. So there was kind of like this
right.
juxtaposition of
Who's
these
this
two
guy?
worlds. So I'm especially curious when it comes to this question, what was the path that led to now and the work you're doing?
Um, wow. All right.
Loaded
So
question, right?
yeah, it's a big one. The I can start with I've always been a kind of pretty spiritual person. Like from when I was like really early high school, late junior high, honestly, started reading like the Bible and listen. And not that I'm not a religious person at all, but I was very interested in how other people kind of navigate the world.
What was it that
Um,
informed that curiosity? Was
I
it
think a lot of
family,
it had to
just
do,
innate?
yeah, just a lot of it had to do with the way that I could tell from an early age that I saw the world differently than the people in my immediate environment,
Mm.
like my mom and my sister and my dad. Like my dad's pretty spiritual. He's his own animal, but like I think that I had just this different feel for the way that people worked and the way that life worked, that I could kind of see different patterns just and I noticed when people did certain things that it kind of rung a bell, like, okay, this is what's going to happen next. And sure enough, and it just that got me just the interest in people in general, from an early age. And then I had a lot of jumping around, as a younger person, a lot of moving. I went from living in this um, rural, I call it a cow town, in Lebanon, Connecticut, where I mostly, I spent all the way up until eighth grade, and I had lots of friends, who were super low key, laid back environment, and I went from there. My mom wanted me to get kind of more of a better education, and I'm going to assume it's because she saw the creative side of me that needed to be tickled a little bit more. And so I went to an art high school in Norwich Free Academy, for a couple of years,
Oh, wow.
and did 3 regular classes and 3 and 3 art classes a day for a couple of years, and played 3 sports. So I played
Wow.
basketball, football, and baseball there. Um, and so that was a big shift. I moved in with my dad my freshman year of high school. I moved back in with my mom because she moved so I could go to that same school. And then we moved from like Eastern Connecticut and going to school in Norwich, which is not urban, but it's got a hip hop feel to it, right? And I went from there, and I was kind of like that. I had my bum equipment stuff on, and it was sort of like, it's like that was
Bum
the
equipment.
yeah jams, and I was doing the thing, right? And
Okay.
as I had my hat on backwards all the time, that type of thing. I don't know. I had my own persona. I didn't really care what anybody thought.
Yeah.
And then moved from there to Southwest Florida on the coast,
Oh, wow.
it's like Punta Gorda, which is near between Fort Myers and Tampa.
Oh,
And it's like, that's a different country completely, like a completely different world. So literally I got off a plane the night before my junior year of high school in Florida.
Oh,
Just
wow.
whoop. And so that was a kind of a culture shock. So really, like if I look back at it, I can say that I went from this one really rural place and got to kind of live in that environment and kind of really get my roots of who I am and how I deal with the world from like a practical, pragmatic type of sense. And then I had to make all these adjustments, you know, into different cultures and different kind of communities. So there's the art community in Norwich, the NFA, that I was a part of. I was also part of this athletic department and the, you know, an athletic and I was good at it, you know, I was an
Yeah.
athlete. And then going from there to, you know, I mean, Florida. And it's another world, you know, like there's a different culture there that is I had never really been immersed in. Like I have family that lives down there, and so my mom got remarried and we moved down there, and I made a lot of friends. Had a lot to do with just being capable as an athlete because that's all they cared about down there. I learned nothing academically. I was actually learning things in 11th grade down there, and I hope, you know, I hope someone's paying attention. I learned things in 11th grade down there that I learned in 7th grade up here. And that was like, okay, free pass. I get to I get to just go
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
school and do whatever. And then from there I got, you know, I did pretty well playing baseball. I almost got drafted out of high school to play baseball. I was throwing like 90 miles an hour in high school as a as a pitcher.
Look at you.
I didn't get drafted because I didn't hit my weight. You know, I was like a buck 30. I hit a buck 35 and I weighed 165 pounds. So it was
Wow.
terrible. But then I did get picked up to go to college. I walked on at this little rinky dink place called Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida. And it was one of those things where, again, like I wasn't learning much, but it was such a great place to be and live, like on the coast of Florida, beach all the time, you know, got heavy into the sports again, ended up doing really well. I was like 8-3 as a pitcher as a freshman, and I hit 320 my freshman year, and then my sophomore year I hit 370 and was 9-3 as a pitcher. And then I really fell back in love with the art at that school. I got injured. I stopped really caring about baseball and that culture. And I got back, like went right back into, wanting to make art and
So at that point, what were you gravitating towards art wise?
sculpture. I loved to carve stone.
Hmm.
I'd never I didn't pick up a welder until I was almost 30. So I did the same thing I did all, you know, the art track for art courses. I got all A's while I was playing baseball, and then I quit baseball and I just kept going. Um, but I did also had a minor in advertising and double majored in fine art and graphic design. So in a small school, it was like, yeah, you take 3 different courses and you can get a double major. It was not that hard. So it's not like I was working hard, but it's not like
Yeah, yeah.
I was literally going to school twice. It was a lot of overlap. And from there, I moved back up to Connecticut because I was just like, okay, I don't see a lot of opportunity here in Florida, and it was too damn hot for me to breathe. And so I just wanted to come home and came back up here and started doing the design work, graphic design work. Let's see, a couple years in the agency world. I got met my ex-wife there, and didn't stay long because I was just kind of like the same thing. I knew there was a means to an end, but I didn't believe in what I was doing.
Okay.
I was I was good at the the design work. I was good at creative, from a, you know, visual perspective, I was good at copywriting and making, sense of the way things should be sold, and the marketing part made sense to me. But literally, we were selling like sugared water to diabetes candidates, and I was just like, nope, I can't do this. This is not
Yeah.
for me. And so I went off and freelanced and tried to figure out how to make my own art again. Um, Went to welding school, got a job as a welder. Um, Lost
What put
some
welding in
things.
your mind? I mean, sculpting, it obviously it's
Yes,
one of the paths you can take. But was there somebody that
exactly.
mentioned welding and ironwork, or what was it? How did that cross your path?
I started looking at. I started. I think I went to a. I can't remember where exactly it was. I went to a friend's studio, um, and he was a metal sculptor. I didn't really understand what the hell he was up to with it. I kind of still don't, but it was just one of those things. Was like I understood the concept of welding, but then I got to play with it a little bit, and I saw the potential for creating a lot of work really fast. And then I got inspired by the guys who make huge, huge stuff. So like people like Albert Paley and Richard Serra and Mark de Suvero and like monumental sculptors, the guys that are at if you've ever been to Storm King in outside of Newburgh, New York, it's one of those places where you have just massive, massive works of art.
Got to check it
And
out.
also, I was big into Rodin. I don't know if you know who Rodin is, but that did the more like kind of an impressionistic style of the human figure. And I really wanted to start casting my own metal. Like I wanted to cast bronze, just because I was really good with the clay, and I was like, okay, I can make molds, I can do all the stuff. I want to figure out how to cast bronze. So it's like I need to learn how to weld so I can make my own tools, so I can build my own foundry. So I started out on the welding, and I just kind of never got off it. um,
Wow.
and then it turned into just went to welding school, got a job as a welder, got injured, lost parts of my hand at this
Yeah.
job. Um, got a medical settlement to. I got a settlement for the medical, which was peanuts, dude. You don't ever want to get hurt at a job. You don't.
Yeah.
And I started my business in 2007. So from there, just learning as I go, like making cool stuff, getting projects from people, fixing things here and there, and then just building, building, building. A lot of the time, just word of mouth, hustling around, just going to different places and meeting people, and then just solidifying, quality clients over the years that just keep coming back.
So what was it for you that opened up your mind from the work that you're doing, that you were doing when I met you, to coaching? What did that transition, not even transition, but supplementation, I guess? What
Yeah.
was it that guided you to add kind of that coaching repertoire to your toolbox?
Yeah. So a lot of it started in when I was starting to make artwork for other artists and starting to do design work with designers. And I would always, it was always hard. It was always, not always, but there was a lot of the time where I was navigating their um, inability to understand what they actually wanted and getting to the root of what they were really after. That just came naturally to me. And in that process, just made so many friends, or at least got the trust of so many people, where they would start sharing stuff with me, and I would just be like, what about this? What about that? And I was just like still big into like I'm not a fiction person, as you can tell by this book, but I was reading and actually looking at a lot of the self-help older self-help content back in 2008 and 2009 when people started actually literally putting out like courses online and stuff like that. I bought a couple of those and I was just like, this is great. Like people's perspective changing and getting them just connected to what they really want and motivated and self-aware. Like back then I
Yeah.
was just like, oh my God, I want to do this. And so it started to come out through my artwork that I was really interested in communicating the better parts of who we could be and this aspiration for what is possible, and my desire to do that through the work and just sort of be reflective about what I was trying to say with my own artwork. That really started getting me into that conversation about how do I talk to people? How do I relate with people? How am I listening to people? What am I communicating through both my work and my relationships? And how is that like valuable? Like, does that, like, I wanted it to matter,
Yeah.
and that's really why I walked away from corporate altogether. It's just like, I don't see this mattering. This does not matter. And so that was kind of the through line with my creative side, is that, and ultimately why I walked away from being an athlete, because it's like at the end of the day, I'm an entertainer. Yes, I could be inspiring somebody, but it's like, it's not, it's not the same thing, like,
Yeah.
it's not the same thing. So I wanted to just do more of that. And through the process of working with other people, through the process of like paying attention to what I was saying with my own artwork, and just sort of the things that I was interested in outside of, the my career as a creative person, I just found myself leaning more and more and more into, I just wanted to connect with people. I wanted to, be a part of, I got on the board of directors at this place called the Creative Arts Workshop, back in 2009, and wanted to have an impact on like, okay, how are these people, like, how are we serving these people to in this community to express themselves more? Like, how are we connecting with more people? And it wasn't the right environment for me. It's just a different culture, but
Yeah.
ultimately that's what I was still after. And honestly, like, that's actually how I met Brent, through that environment, through that place. And it's just more like just being interested and being involved in how other people are going to progress. um, I I I started doing a training to be a coach in 2014, and I was all set and ready to, like, I'm going to follow this path, I'm going to keep going. And then just like, I couldn't do that, try to make money, become, be a dad of a 3-year-old, and support a house, or be a part of supporting a household, and
Yeah.
go after this thing that I have had, I didn't really have a lot of experience at. So that got tabled for a couple of years, or up until like now, up until a couple of years ago. Um, and, and, the circumstances weren't right at that time for me to jump into that world. But I always had that bent to my work. I always showed up to say something with my artwork. Um, and I think what, just ultimately from then to now, what changed was it became urgent for me to do it. It became like I've been pushing this around in my head and in the way that I go about things for a long time. And the more I got, um, the more I went toward the fabrication side of like making stuff, the more I got involved in that, and the more I had to run a business that was basically, okay, I've got to make this much money, I've got to support these guys, I've got to have a team, I've got to, pay all the bills, mine and theirs, and run it from a, strictly like CEO sort of way.
Yeah.
I lost that part, that part of me that wanted to show up and thrive and be important and matter, went away. And I just, that was a hard time for me. And so, not surprisingly, the universe kind of showed me a few things, and that part of what I was doing, I pretty much, it went away. I dropped it to a degree. I wasn't pushing it. It wasn't what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I saw the potential, or at least the real desire that I had inside to do something differently and use the abilities and talents that I have to make a difference. And that's when I started doing the workshops, like back just before COVID. I was going to start them. I started them in COVID. I connected with you guys. Like that was in COVID. That was like a real turning point for me. It was just like, okay, I'm in this crucible. My business is failing. I'm like at this spot where there's no way I'm going to be able to pull this off. I tried one more time, 2022, and still wasn't right. I was doing more artwork at that time, but it just, I knew then, but didn't have the pieces to the puzzle ready to make that jump into really pushing to become a coach, into really pushing to be a teacher, into really pushing into like wanting to be out there making an impact the way that I really have that drive now. I don't know
So
if that
Eric,
answers
does
your
it?
question.
Oh yeah, of course. Does it make sense from your childhood that this is what you're doing? In your words, how do you reconcile who you were as a kid to what you're doing today?
Wow, that's a great question.
Because I'm always curious about people that they go into the workforce, they go into their business because of the responsibilities, because of, the script of society, they kind of lose who they were as a kid. So I started asking this question just to
Yeah.
kind of get a sense for how much of your childhood is in the work you're doing, how much of your childhood is reflected in what you're carrying out.
Mhm.
If it's there, how do you put words to that? What do you
Okay.
see?
Yeah, no. So the way I can kind of tie that up from kiddom to now
Yeah.
is the way that I kind of saw the world, and the way that I had just sort of just, I guess, a deeper sense of observation, a deeper sense of like perspective and meaning, and having I was a pretty sensitive kid, like sensitive in the sense that I could tell when somebody was saying something that they were trying to get me to do something in a way that I felt was like not nice. And I was really sensitive to that, but I was always sensitive to people who needed help. I remember this time when I was in fourth grade, there was we had this like you do this sort of like assembly thing where we do this. It was part of fourth grade where we all had to learn how to do like I don't know if I want to say it was like a line dancing kind of routine or some kind of like group sort of activity where we all had to get a partner and do-si-do and all this whatever. I can't really remember why we did it, but I remembered that. There were opportunities to partner up with the pretty girls and all this other stuff. And there was this one girl who's, I remember her name was Jenny, special needs kid who had nobody pick her. And, here I am, popular kid. And I went over to her and I was the one that danced with her because nobody else would, and I think my dad likes to tell that story. And I think, and that's not something that's like character stuff, right? Like that's like the part of you that knows there's more important stuff than getting all the accolades and being the perfect person or being whatever. It's about doing the right thing. And I've always had that. I've not always done the best at it execution wise, but when it matters, that's what I'm after. And I think that comes from my mom's side of the family, who are all very colorful, boisterous, truth tellers. They call you out. They tell you what they think. They're not always nice about it. But it matters that, that you're being fair, that you're being honest, that you're doing what you say you're going to do, that you're not, that your bullshit meter is
Yeah.
low in terms of how other people perceive you because you do what you're supposed to do, or you do what you say, or at least that's the effort is made. And they also have super high sensitivity to garbage, to people who are, blowing smoke, and the people who are trying to take you for something. And I learned early on, how that could benefit a human. I wasn't always good at sharing what I thought. I was always, a lot of time, a little bit direct, and um, a lot direct, and had a little gur in me from feeling a little anger, from my own, sort of what felt like isolation. My dad wasn't around. My mom worked all the time. I still think my sister is the favorite, that type of thing. Um, but all through that, you know, the doing the right thing and the picking myself up was part of the story, And
Yeah.
so, I think that if I were to draw that line, I've been flying solo and doing my own thing and trying to make my own way as best I can in a way that matters since I was a kid.
So obviously that plays into the superpower you had mentioned before that kind of has to do with that sensitivity, that understanding of others, drawing out what others might want to share, might need to share. Can you
Right.
speak to, because the next question is always, what do you consider your superpower? You had mentioned the word superpower before, but anything else you want to speak to when it comes to what you consider your superpower to be?
Well, I mean, again, like just that sensitivity and that, just that being able to read folks well, based on body language and the way they say what they say, um, you know, is really helpful in helping other people. It's also helpful in keeping you out of situations that don't that are
Oh yeah.
unsavory.
Yeah.
Um, I think the other superpower, if I were to say I have one, is that I just don't fucking quit, man. I just don't give up. I don't.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm always going at a million miles an hour in one direction, or I'm forcefully dogged about any one thing. I like to I like to understand things. I like to take measured steps. I like to do the things the best of my
Yeah.
ability, but I don't quit. Like I don't like we talked about the personal stuff that's going on, man, and off camera, but I'm not going to quit. I won't, and the same thing with running my life the way that I want to, and the way that I feel is, like it's not freaking easy, but it
Mm.
makes a difference and it matters. And I could say at the end of the road, I lived a life that I put me into it, like I
Yeah.
put me into it. And there's just, you kind of have to have that, um, there's grit, there's resilience, there's all this persistence. You can talk about all these things, but it's just for what, not settling for what you're given, because that's the easy answer, right? Like I want that and I want to go get that and I'm going to
Yeah.
get that,
Yeah.
and it's going to take a while, and I know, and it's going to suck, and I know, but I'm going,
Yeah.
and I've gotten a lot better, I think, more recently at not letting the suck so much, just like, okay, this is part of it. This is part of it. Don't want to do it. Got to keep going.
This
And
is all a great build up to the book we're going to
yes,
cover.
exactly. It's like, that's why I love this book, man.
So before we do jump into the book, what does leadership mean to you? I always want to get that definition, that insight from my guests.
Yep.
How do you define leadership? What does great leadership look like? Your thoughts?
I think leadership is bringing the best out of the people that you lead, that you are the example for, not by telling them what to do, but by elevating their ability to see the best in themselves and want more of that. to really just say, I believe in this person who I am, to go beyond what I have done and become more capable. And a leader inspires that in somebody else, and it becomes part of the people that they are, that they are, that they're leading, that they have influence over, and it's not a mandate. It's a there is an expectation to a degree that, especially in an organization, that you want the people who are going to do that. But a real leader gives people room to find it in themselves and creates the conditions for them to go get it. That's what I see. And that has a lot to do with my parenting style. Honestly, I like to let my kid know he's awesome, but also know there's more in the tank. And that the sky is the limit if you keep looking in that direction.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just in going through, fatherhood myself with 3 kids of varying ages, various phases right now, but it's incredible to give them this little extra guidance, maybe more than we did maybe more than we got, more than we received when we were kids. Yeah, because my parents, we were latchkey kids. Parents were always working, multiple jobs, this and that. I have more freedom with my kids. I'm making more money than my parents did, so I can provide more for my kids. I would never trade my childhood for anything because it's afforded me discipline, appreciation, gratitude, so I can offer more for my kids. But the biggest thing that I can offer them is my time. It gives me more freedom to be with them, to have conversations with them that I couldn't have with my parents. So it's incredible comparing the leadership world. I mean, it is leadership to parenting and just how you want your kids to see themselves.
Right.
It's like, okay, you're going to see the world. It's going to come at you. But just before all that bullshit of the world, recognize the tools in yourself. Recognize what you bring to the table. It's not about entitlement that they're owed everything, but first, before you get started with all the bullshit that's going to come at you from the world, recognize what you bring to the table. So I love the fact that you brought up fatherhood because it plays in beautifully.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Yeah, it's the most important role I play.
Yeah. Hey, man. Same here. Same here. All right. So why don't you introduce the book we're going to jump into and just a general overview, your thoughts on the book?
Yeah. So,
and I got a copy
the book
here.
The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And the short version is I just Ryan Holiday's a big, just kind of the first time I went through this book was a big time of shift in my life. But sort of calling upon the lessons of the past. It's a very non-fictional book, and just going through the just the various characters over time and how they overcame their challenges situationally, and also in their minds to become the people that they wanted to become, or that they knew that they had the desire to become. The way that this book is kind of broken out is into sort of 3 sections. I very much ascribe to a lot of this. Is like the part 1 is perception, and then the second part is action, and then the third part is the will. And so, if you kind of bucket things and the stories that he tells about that, he's sort of framed everything up, with little allegories from, Theodore Roosevelt, and from, I think, Grant is one of them, Amelia Earhart. It's a bunch of historical figures that, throughout, and always through all of this are the Stoics, right? He's always talking about Marcus Aurelius in every single book he writes, 100 times Marcus Aurelius. And it's cool. And like, I've read a Marcus Aurelius too, but it's like, all right, man, get it. And, I love the way he objectifies, and removes, or sort of the stories are aimed at removing the crutch of emotion in a situation, or not even the crutch, but the potential pitfalls of bad perception and emotion you know getting out of hand, where people are unable to act. And he draws the opposite corollary, which is, these folks have conditioned themselves to be steadfast in the way that they make choices, in the way they move forward, in the way that they decide how they're going to be and what their energy is being put toward. So I just find it super, when I first read this book, I was just like, oh, this is how I really want to be. I had lost.
Yeah.
I was just like so awry with my hurt, my feelings, like everything's heavy. It's just like, actually, this is not that hard if you just look at it like this. And it's not. It takes a long time to embody or kind of exemplify the whole Stoic mindset, right? It takes practice, which is sort of part of the mantra anyway, but it takes practice to get to a level where you are able to separate the part that comes up from the part that chooses to move forward in a certain way.
Yes.
And that transition between the emotion and the next move is really where the rubber meets the road in coaching, in everything, in athletics, all that stuff. Like I had this happen, input, and then, okay, how am I going to process this and then move forward? Right. And so, that this is the way that he tells these stories, and the sort of the very direct, lessons. And the way he breaks it out is like bullet points, and their little kind of stories that tell you the way to go forward. So
cool. I mean, for those who really think about how long a book is, or how big a book is, or how many pages, I'm such a book nerd. Like, I always write down the date that I started a book, the date that I ended the book or finished the book. I read this in December. I started December 16th, 2020, and I finished it December 19th, 2020. So 3 days later, I was done with this thing.
Super quick book.
It's a small book, quick book, but it's one of those books where it's small, but like every word counts. Every word matters. There's no fluff in there. That's what I appreciate about this. But the best thing about it is, Eric, you said so yourself, where, you were going through some heavy stuff, and then you read something like the Stoics, and it's like somebody just asked you a question or made a statement to you, and you're like, oh, so this is all a part of it.
That's it.
Which is fucking incredible, because it's just kind of permission. Like, okay, you have permission to acknowledge there's hardship in life. It's a part of it. Yep. All this programming that you have to get to the perfect life, that you have to be in control, that facade of nothing's wrong with me, my life is perfect, my life is easy, I can sleep well at night. That's not the way it is. If things work out for you, fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But if they don't, 9 times out of 10, something is not going to work out. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be up against some kind of pressure, some kind of tension, some kind of obstacle.
Yep.
So what's incredible is just reading even just a little bit of this and saying, okay, so suffering is a part of life. And obviously with the Stoics, a lot of it is, what can you control? What can you not?
Right.
And most of the time when we stress, most of the time we're upset, most of the time when we break down, we're stressing about things that are completely out of our control. So it's incredible having picked up his works. I've read a few of his books. Just kind of that detachment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's, like you said, you're one of those people that you're always working on something. You're always, you keep fighting forward.
Yep.
But I can imagine even you, in reading this, you recognize, okay, certain things, no matter how much I fight, they're not going to go my way. So I'm curious for you, this is just a random question. How does this, work up against that fight in you? Because you say, listen, I'm a fighter. I will keep going for the thing. Did anything change in that for you based on reading something like this, where it's kind of like you have to understand what you can control and what you can't?
Yeah, absolutely. I stopped. I stopped allowing certain things to control me. Number one, like this and
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
getting out of control was a problem. And the spiral and the soup of anxiety and the just rumination of things that I were a problem. This book basically said, and and what are you going to do? And
Yeah.
that's it. And so like it's just ultra simplified the directives and the
Yeah.
you know the and removed the need to ruminate, and it actually not even removed need to move. It basically said you better fucking get rid of that because it's stopping you.
Yeah.
And in terms of like it is what it is, an acceptance of hardship, struggle, whatever, like what I did learn in this book that I really love is that shit's there for a reason. You're supposed to go through that hard stuff because
Yeah.
you're supposed to become more than that hard stuff.
Yeah.
And you have to get beyond the parts that suck by overcoming either the challenge, the obstacle, and learning something about yourself that gets you there
Yeah.
and choosing to get you there. And that's what the dogged part of me is like, I'm going here. Okay, now what do I have to learn to get to that point?
Yeah.
And that is the nature of the game in terms of like how I see personal development in general, and how I see just tackling any challenge or any problem. It's just like, all right, same thing as what we started out with. It's like, I know where I want to go. I have clarity in that. These are the things that are in the way, or these are the things that show up. I have to do X, Y, and Z to get beyond that. And then
Yeah.
beyond that whole, and what made this easier for me to kind of frame up how to move forward in that is all the little tips and tools to remind you how to go through that process. So like staying in the moment is a big thing, right? Like it's really, really easy to get sucked into yesterday and tomorrow
Oh yeah.
and just whoa and
Yeah.
forget that I'm right here. I've got this thing to do right now. And if I'm not doing it my best, then tomorrow will suck and I'm going
Yeah.
to miss it, or I'm missing right now or the best of me right now by worrying about yesterday and tomorrow. And that's not necessary. It's actually bad for you.
It pisses me off that these lessons that save you from yourself are so simple.
Oh yeah.
Like this was a game changer for me, right? And it's again simple.
Yep.
Another
Always.
game changer for me was the 4 agreements.
Yep.
One specific agreement that was always do your best.
Yep.
I forget if I'm
100%.
wording it correctly, but
Yep.
you always heard that throughout your life. Just do
Right.
your best. But that book put it as do your best. And if you did your best and it didn't work out, you did your best, on to the next thing.
Right.
So it helps a lot with detachment. Like, yes, I'm going to do my due diligence. Yes, I'm going to put in my best effort. But if it doesn't work out, there's so much more to kind of experiment and move on to. So that's what kills me is how simple the lessons are and how life-changing they can be. But if we read this when we were younger, it might not have clicked.
It'd probably been like reading a piece of dry toast. It would have been, you know what I mean? There's like,
Exactly.
very different the way we
and I had
perceive
talked
things
to
now.
you because you said you read it a few more times since we scheduled this.
Yeah.
And I asked you, or I said to you, I'm like, it probably sounded a little different. It probably hit a little different based on where you are in your life. So I don't know. I don't know if I think most of the reason I'm at peace now is because I have 3 kids and my energy is limited. So my life is about, are they taken care of? Are they sheltered? Are they fed? Are they safe? Are they healthy?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, everything else, my community, my friends, my extended family is all important to me. But my main thing is, are they taken care of? If they are, everything else is, nothing can touch me. If my family, if I am threatened, okay, I'll have to deal with that. But I think being a father really put it into perspective about what's really important and where I do ruminate on stuff that may be a bonus, but it shows you what's important, what the core is for you.
Yeah. I mean, you know, our yours and my situation is very different right now in terms of our parental situation. And without getting too crazy into detail, that having that role disrupted, removed, affected, because you and I are kind of the same. It's like it's most important to us that our kids are
Yeah.
good, right? And having that be disrupted or taken away or twisted or whatever we want to call that stuff, has forced me to be a better father, because now I need to learn how to communicate differently with somebody who I care tremendously about and that matters the most to me in my life, in a way that I'm not used to. And so I have to get better at redefining what it means to connect and getting better at showing up so that person that I know is out there and confused at the moment can still see me, that I'm still here, that I'm still after being a good dad, and that I'm not quitting. And I've had to say that, right? And so having something like this book to as a guidepost, and it's really, really important for me to listen to it and read it again recently, because that inner strength is still always necessary. Like there were parts of this ordeal that I've been going through where I lost it, like lost it and crumbled. Things started to fall apart. And I had to find a way to reorient
Yeah.
regardless of how I felt and still do the stuff that needed to get done. And priority number one is make sure my kid's good. And so almost all of my energy has been put into making sure that's better. It's getting better. I'm getting better. I'm getting stronger because I choose not to quit. I choose to see the things that I can't control as something that is calling me to get better at. And so, like that, whether that's being a dad, whether that's being a coach, whether that's being a teacher or an art maker or a workshop facilitator, whatever, that principle matters and is a through line in how I want to execute the rest of my life. And the more that I can keep it simple, the easier it gets, right? The easier it is to overcome the crazy complicated shit, because all that crazy complicated stuff and distraction and the things that we can't control, that, like, do I choose to allow it to come into my world and affect how I deal with the world and make me a different person? Or do I say, okay, I see that and I'm going to do this way, this that way, this the other way, and I can't do anything about those things, so I'm going to put them over there for now.
Yeah.
It's just like it changes the philosophy of objectifying your problems and breaking them down into smaller parts is super, super valuable to anybody who gets into overwhelm and gets into like the
Yeah.
rumination part, who gets into like, I've got too many things, too many balls in the air. Like, drop a few,
Yeah.
drop
Yeah.
a few, because half of them are not necessary, and I think that so many of the balls we try to keep in the air are because we think we're supposed to,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
I,
it's like,
the visual that
why?
always comes to me is like the spinning plates on like the poles.
Yeah.
Um, Eric, speak to we talk about the obstacle being the way, that obstacles, and in some cases the word that's used in this kind of thinking and area is suffering.
Hmm.
Talk about the benefit of it once you've gotten past it, what it shows you, what kind of perspective it gives you, or maybe appreciation or whatever after you've gone through that. There is importance. In the episode before this, I'd spoken to the guest, and she had talked about or asked, if you could step through a door and everything would be perfect in that life, would you do that or would you not? I said, if I could go in there and forget about the past and it would just be perfect, fine. But if I couldn't forget everything that I've been through and I started from now that it was just perfection, I wouldn't want to do it because it gives me a reference point. I know I think you need some of the bad with the good to kind of oscillate between them. So can you speak to that? And if I'm not being clear, just let me know. I
No,
know
that's
I
fine.
threw a lot out at you, but speak to that once you get through those obstacles, what it is you take away with you, the importance of those challenges after the fact. You've spoken a little bit about it being a father, obviously, but just in general, what do you think?
I think we cannot progress without conflict and without challenges. It's not possible. If everything was perfect, we would have no need to progress. We would have no need to put in effort. We
Yeah.
would have no need to, question things. We would have no need to um, come up with new solutions or innovate. We would have no need to be creative if it's perfect. What's wrong? Why would we want that? That's
Yeah.
such a lame way to live.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, that's the nature of the way things work. You cannot have success without failure. You cannot have, reward without overcoming a challenge. You cannot have, or without going through the work of preparing, like, which is hard. You can't get, the reward is great. I think what I get out of what's after the reward is about 20 minutes of that was awesome. What's next?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's going to be something else, man. Like,
I always,
am I going to stop now? I got this thing.
yeah, yeah.
Why?
That's true. Yeah. That's come up a lot on this series too. Like it's not one mountain, it's like a set of mountains. You
Yeah.
get to one goal, you've reached the top of this mountain. Now you're looking up at the next mountain.
Yeah.
So I've learned to appreciate the process. I've learned to appreciate moving in that direction, evolving in that direction. I don't know. Yeah, I don't. There's always a discussion about, do you set goals? Do you set intentions? Do you set directions? How do you look at the future? I don't know, like, the last time I really set a goal. I'm working in the right direction. I know it. I can feel it, but I don't know. I don't have an endpoint because everything is just in flux. Everything evolves. But that's a great point. Is just the importance of, like, the journey. I've come to appreciate that very much.
Yeah. I think there's, like I said, the journey isn't a straight freaking line ever. Right? There's awesome and suck, awesome, suck, backwards, awesome and suck, and
I was just about to say it backwards.
Oh, now I got there. Great.
Yeah.
But what I get after that is the ability to do the next hard thing with more grace, with more understanding, with more ease, with more appreciation for the benefits of overcoming the last time it sucked. Right?
Yeah.
Like that courage to step forward, because at the end, I know I'm like, when I go through this, or even when I start something, like, okay, suck is on its way. I'm going to be all right because I've survived it before. And that's really like a lot of what I teach in the workshops. It's like people who have no experience with anything new, taking that first step and surviving it is the basically planting the seed for confidence and creativity to grow, because then they can try again and survive that. And then they can try again and survive that.
Yeah.
And then it becomes momentum. And then it's like, holy crap, look what I can do. Right. And so if you don't have the ability to take that first step and make it through that fear or the pain or the uncertainty or the darkness of the unknown, if you cannot take that step, you don't have a freaking chance, man. You don't. Life will take over and you will do what anybody else tells you to do. And that's the way it's going to be. And you can just, make an appointment with the couch at the end of the day and get up tomorrow morning and do the same thing. And that's it. And I just don't really want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I just think it's in your DNA, humankind, just to, I think, fighting, moving forward. I don't think our brains have evolved as quickly as technology and convenience have. We're hundreds of thousands of years old, like, different iterations of our ancestors. we were always on the move, always trying to survive, always fighting. So for us to sit in a cozy house with no immediate danger, our mind is going to come up with the danger. And that's where all that anxiety comes from. Um, and I bring that up only because I've brought up in this series before where I have a good life compared to my parents, a better life. They came here as immigrants, and now, I'm the next generation here. And what's driven me crazy most in the last 10 years is that I do have a healthy family. I do have a
Nice.
nice house. I am in the suburbs. They have a good school system. Like all of these things have fallen in place, like checking the boxes, I guess, as society would want us to do.
Yep.
And yet I'm still at my most uneasiest, I guess, if that's the right word. Something is still, when everything is good, it's like, okay, I need something
Yeah.
to kind of push against me.
Yeah.
It's not to say I'm not grateful for all my blessings. Absolutely. But it just goes to show that even when things are good, it's like we need something. Most of us need something to push against, need something to fight for, whatever that next level, whatever that next high might be.
Do you know what that is?
It's so fucked
It's your
up.
innate human desire to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You need more growth. You need
Yeah.
to come up with another thing that makes you better than you were
Absolutely.
the day before.
Absolutely.
And if you're
brother.
not plugged into that on a regular basis, or you don't have that just that little bit of friction that makes things a little bit harder, or that you have to overcome, there's you're stuck.
Yeah.
The growth part of you, the part of you. And I think this is where I go back to the spiritual part, right? Our universe, we all come from the same stuff, right? We all come from the same thing. And if you want to talk about God, or you want to talk about like creation or the creator or whatever, the universe, the all higher power, we're all trying to grow. We're all trying to expand. We're all universally made of the same stuff. And I think if you want to look at like this spiritual higher power, that spiritual higher power is trying to grow through our consciousness as we navigate this time on the planet. And if we're not doing those things, there's an imbalance there. It's like, nope, sorry, I'm going to make you feel like crap because you're not growing. And people who just quit on that, they don't have good lives, in my opinion. They're either in pain, or they complain too much, or there's a hurt that they hold on to that keeps them from moving forward. And there's stagnation, and that's not the intent of life. Like, it's not. Be as comfortable as possible is not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
If it were supposed to be that way, everything would be perfect. It's not perfect. It's not going to be. Right? Everything's a mess. And I have to say something about technology and the computer and everything since, we started depending on technology for everything. It feels to me that the computer, and very, very rapidly in our society, the computer has its intent was to make certain decisions and certain problem solving easier. But what has happened is we have handed over our consciousness to algorithms, to what the computer decides we need to keep us from, and it's keeping us from evolving, because we're replacing real experiences with virtual experiences, and it's confusing our brains. And the reason we're having all of this craziness with mental health issues, this is my opinion, I may not be right, but mental health issues and depression and lots and lots of suicides and people having real problems in their lives, is because we are stuck looking for not real experiences when we should be engaging with each other, solving real problems, having actual connection, and not just feeding our brains' need for stimulation.
They use they use technology as proxies for real connection.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same thing with that's why I don't read fiction, because it's like I'm in someone else's world right now, and I'm not being able to pay attention to me, and I'm getting emotionally charged because I'm listening to this story and it's affecting me. Like I talk about a stoic approach. I mean, I mean, it's just, I don't want to get too far outside of my reality and not have agency to create what
Very good point.
I can,
Yeah.
I can't say I've always been awesome at it, and I certainly would like to have more of some things in my life, but like, I don't know. Every day is pretty cool, even when it sucks. Every day is pretty cool.
Amen. So, Eric, what are you up to these days? Is there anything I didn't ask you want to share? Anything at all that I might have missed? Anything that you wanted to cover that we didn't? Floor's yours.
No, I mean, just want to help more people. Like, just that's it. The more I can do things like this and talk and get out and speak and teach and connect and just help people see that it's not all that bad. And there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of hope if we look at it that way, and a lot of opportunity if we look at it that way. But if we look at it like everything sucks and we don't like this president or that president, we don't like the economy and this and that, we're focusing on stuff we can't do anything about, you know? And I think just getting people together, getting folks back in the moment, being creative, like remembering what it means to actually be creative. And, just the last thing to go back to the workshops and part of my coaching style is like, I'm trying to create real situations where people experience the things that help them get stronger, that help them understand they are capable of overcoming, that help them understand that there is strength inside, that they have when they go through these specific exercises or specific, projects that we do in the workshop, they come away feeling more empowered, more capable, more courageous to try something new. And I think, and the best way to do that in my mind is just to get other people together to do that together so that they can bounce that off of each other and just grow that, that spirit of here I am, I'm alive, and I've just done something in real life and it's amazing, and it's just appreciation of being alive is, I think, completely missing.
Yeah.
But other than that, no. I mean, I think we're good.
No, you're right. Hey, listen,
connect me with more people. That's it.
I love the way you've always approached, your thoughts, sharing your thoughts. Again, I got that very strong sense of humanity from you. Just in hearing you speak, every time I've heard you speak from the time that I met you, I appreciate your work. I think it's amazing you're going into the coaching field now, or have been in the coaching field. And I love the combination of the mental work of the coaching field with the mental work of the hands-on creativity in your workshop. I think steps like that, I think projects like that, work like that is going to help offset all this additional technology evolution that we're going through. Is just people getting together in community, realizing what they're capable of, and having conversations, learning from one another, realizing especially what they're capable of. If somebody like yourself, a guide, a teacher, a shaman, whoever says, this is what you're capable of, I'll show you, let's get going. So I appreciate your work. And again, the book that we covered was The Obstacle is the Way, The Timeless Art of Turning Trials into Triumph by Ryan Holiday. This book right here on screen. Eric, thank you for sitting down for this conversation, buddy.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate your time. Love talking to you. I love talking to you as well. Always connected. It's always been a good experience, and I hope we get to do it more and keep going.
Absolutely. And if there's anything I might have missed, there's so much to cover, limited time, anything that you think I should have asked, please let me know. I'll reach out to Eric to see what kind of guidance, insight, wisdom, knowledge, anything I can get back. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.